Chapter 1. The Deal. The sprawling, crystalline halls of Baron Tyrock's estate shimmered under the harsh twin suns of Zyre Prime, a planet renowned for its wealth and brutal aristocracy. The Baron himself, a towering figure of shimmering blue skin and molten gold eyes, lounged on his obsidian throne with a smirk that could chill even the most confident man. Before him stood Dr. Elias Carter, a human scientist and medic renowned for his groundbreaking work in alien genetics and rehabilitation. Elias, with his scruffy brown hair and worn utility jacket, looked out of place in the opulent surroundings. But his sharp green eyes radiated determination. "So," Tyrock drawled, his voice smooth but laced with mockery, "you think you can bargain with me, human? You dare come to my court, asking for funding for your— what do you call it? A universal rehabilitation center?" Elias nodded, unfazed by the sarcasm. "It's a facility designed to heal injuries and restore mobility, regardless of species. With your resources, we could dash?" Tyrock raised a hand to silence him, chuckling darkly. "And why should I waste my fortune on such a foolish endeavor? I have no use for crippled servants, let alone curing them." The gathered nobles laughed, their shimmering robes catching the light as they reveled in their master's disdain. Elias clenched his fists, but kept his composure. "Because it's not about usefulness," he replied evenly. "It's about giving beings second chance." The Baron's smirk deepened. "A second chance, you say? How noble." He leaned forward, his golden eyes glinting. "Very well, human. I will sponsor your little project, on one condition." Elias's heart leapt, though he remained cautious. "Name it." Tyrock snapped his fingers, and the massive doors at the end of the hall creaked open. Two guards entered, pushing a hovering chair that carried a frail, pale figure cloaked in shadows. The room fell silent as the figure was brought before the Baron's throne. "This is my daughter, Lyrian Tyrock," the Baron announced, his tone dripping with contempt. "Once, she was the pride of my lineage. A warrior, unmatched in skill and ferocity. But now—" He gestured dismissively at the chair. Lyrian's face remained obscured by a veil, but the tension in her shoulders was unmistakable. Elias noticed the sleek metal braces attached to her legs, a sign of advanced yet rudimentary Grallian technology meant to support mobility, a technology that clearly wasn't working. "She was injured during an unfortunate skirmish," Tyrock continued, feigning pity. "Now, she is nothing but a reminder of failure." The crowd murmured in amusement. Lyrian's hands tightened on the chair's armrests. Tyrock leaned back, his smirk returning. "I will fund your project, human, if you take her with you. Heal her, if you can. Or let her rot among the broken creatures you hope to save. Either way, it amuses me." Elias's jaw tightened. He glanced at Lyrian, whose head remained bowed. He saw past the veil of her father's cruelty. There was no defeat in her posture, only anger and shame. Her potential was buried under years of torment, and Elias felt a surge of defiance on her behalf. "I'll take her," he said firmly, "but when she walks again, you'll see just how wrong you are." The room erupted in laughter, but Tyrock's expression darkened, his amusement replaced by a flicker of irritation. "We'll see, human. We'll see." The journey to redemption. The transport ship hummed quietly as it cut through the void of space, leaving Zyre Prime behind. Lyrian remained in her hovering chair, staring silently out the viewport. Her veil was gone, revealing sharp, delicate features framed by silvery hair. Her pale blue skin, marred by faint scars, glowed softly under the ship's lights. Elias sat across from her, going over the medical scans he had taken earlier. He hesitated before speaking. "Your spinal injury is severe, but not irreversible. With the right technology and therapy, we can dash." "I didn't ask for your help," Lyrian interrupted, her voice cold and sharp. Elias met her gaze, unflinching. "Your father might have forced you into this, but I'm here because I believe you deserve a chance to heal." Lyrian's eyes narrowed. "Do you? Or are you just using me to prove a point to him?" Elias sighed, leaning back in his chair. "You've been through hell, I get that. But this isn't about him. It's about you. You're not broken, Lyrian. You've just been left behind by people who don't care enough to help." For a moment, Lyrian's expression softened, but the wall she had built over years of rejection quickly returned. "We'll see, human." The Universal Rehabilitation Center. The Universal Rehabilitation Center, URC, was a sprawling facility orbiting a lush, terraformed moon. It was a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate beings from dozens of species. Its state-of-the-art labs and therapy rooms were filled with advanced medical equipment, much of it developed by Elias himself. When they arrived, the staff greeted Elias warmly, but their curiosity about Lyrian was palpable. Most had never seen a Grallian noble, let alone one in her condition. Lyrian ignored the stares, her head held high as Elias introduced her to the facility. "This is where you'll be staying," Elias said, guiding her to a private suite equipped with customized medical tools and a small therapy pool. "We'll start with neural mapping to understand the extent of the damage. After that, we'll dash." "You don't need to narrate every step," Lyrian snapped, though her voice lacked its earlier venom. "Just do what you need to do." Elias nodded, giving her space. He knew this was just the beginning of a long, uphill battle. The first steps. The early days of Lyrian's treatment were grueling. Neural mapping revealed extensive damage to her spinal cord, but Elias was confident that a combination of human neural grafts and advanced Grallian biotech could restore functionality. However, the process required both physical and emotional effort, and Lyrian was reluctant to trust anyone. "You expect me to trust these machines?" she demanded one day as Elias adjusted a neural stimulator attached to her lower back. "I expect you to trust yourself," he replied. "The machines are just tools. You're the one doing the work." Despite her resistance, Lyrian began to see progress. The neural grafts stimulated faint sensations in her legs, and regular hydrotherapy sessions helped rebuild muscle strength. Each milestone, no matter how small, chipped away at her skepticism. Elias, for his part, remained patient and encouraging. He celebrated her victories quietly, never pushing too hard or diminishing her efforts. Slowly, Lyrian began to see him not as an enemy but as an ally. A glimmer of potential. One evening, as Lyrian practiced moving her toes in achievement she hadn't thought possible, she glanced at Elias, who was reviewing data on a nearby terminal. "You're not like most humans," she said quietly. Elias looked up, surprised. "Is that a compliment?" Lyrian smirked faintly. "Don't let it go to your head." For the first time, they shared a genuine laugh. It was a small moment, but it marked a turning point in their relationship. Chapter 2. Building Bridges. The Universal Rehabilitation Center became both a sanctuary and a battlefield for Lyrian Tyrock. Each day presented new challenges, both physical and emotional, as she worked alongside Dr. Elias Carter to reclaim control over her body. The sterile, brightly lit halls buzzed with activity, patients of every species undergoing treatments, medical staff rushing to assist, and the hum of advanced technology pushing the boundaries of possibility. For Lyrian, the real battle wasn't just in the therapy sessions. It was in the walls she had built to protect herself. But those walls were slowly being chipped away. First victories. Weeks into her treatment, Lyrian sat in the therapy pool, her legs submerged in the warm, mineral-rich water. She stared at her toes, willing them to move. Neural stimulators hummed softly, delivering gentle pulses to her lower spine. "Just focus," Elias said, kneeling beside the pool. His voice was calm and steady, but his eyes were sharp, analyzing every flicker of muscle response. "I am focusing," Lyrian snapped, frustration bubbling over. "It's not like I'm holding back." "I know," Elias replied, "and you're closer than you think. Try again." Lyrian gritted her teeth, her gaze boring into her reflection in the water. Slowly, her toes twitched a small movement, almost imperceptible, but it was enough. "I saw that," Elias exclaimed, his face lighting up. Lyrian blinked, then looked at her foot in disbelief. I moved it." "You did," Elias said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "And tomorrow, you'll move it again." For the first time, Lyrian felt a glimmer of hope. It wasn't just about proving her father wrong anymore, it was about reclaiming her life. Breaking the ice. As Lyrian made progress in her rehabilitation, her interactions with Elias began to shift. The animosity she had carried into their relationship gave way to cautious respect. Elias, for his part, never treated her as a burden or a trophy. He treated her like a person. One evening, As they reviewed her progress in the facility's lounge, Lyrian spoke up unexpectedly. Why do you care so much? About helping people, I mean. Elias leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. When I was a kid, I watched my dad rebuild old machines. He'd take these broken-down scraps and turn them into something functional, even beautiful. It taught me that nothing is ever truly beyond repair. That's surprisingly sentimental, Lyrian said, her lips twitching into a faint smile. Elias chuckled. What about you? Before the accident, what did you want to do? Lyrian hesitated, her gaze distant. I was a warrior. My father expected nothing less. But I always wanted more exploration, diplomacy, understanding other species. I wanted to show the galaxy that Grallians could be more than conquerors. And now? Elias asked gently. She met his eyes, her expression resolute. Now, I want to show them that we're not defined by our circumstances or by the people who try to keep us down. Elias nodded, his respect for her growing with every word. I think you already are. The Emperor's shadow. Despite Lyrian's progress, the shadow of her father loomed large. Reports from Zyre Prime hinted that Baron Tyrock was growing impatient. His joke had become a political liability, with whispers among the Grallian elite questioning his decision to exile his daughter to a human's care. He's testing you, Elias said one day, as they discussed the reports. He doesn't think you'll succeed. And if you do, he'll try to take credit. Lyrian's jaw tightened. He can try, but I won't let him. Their conversation was interrupted by a communication from the facility's control room. A Grallian ship had entered orbit, bearing Tyrock's insignia. It seems he's come to check on his investment, Lyrian said bitterly. Confrontation. When Baron Tyrock entered the rehabilitation center, his presence was as oppressive as ever. His golden eyes scanned the facility with disdain, lingering on the alien patients receiving treatment. This is where you've been hiding, he sneered as he approached Lyrian. Among the broken and the weak? Lyrian, standing with the aid of advanced braces, met his gaze without flinching. I've been rebuilding myself, something you never thought I could do. Tyrock's eyes flicked to Elias, his lip curling. And this human? Has he filled your head with delusions of grandeur? Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. She doesn't need me to tell her what she's capable of. She's proving it every day. Tyrock laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. You think this progress matters? You'll always be an embarrassment to our family, Lyrian. No amount of human ingenuity will change that. Lyrian's hands clenched into fists, but she refused to let him see her anger. Then why are you here? To remind you of your place, Tyrock said, his voice dripping with malice. And to see how far you'll fall when this farce inevitably fails. Elias stepped between them, his eyes blazing. With all due respect, Baron, you have no idea what your daughter is capable of. She's stronger than you could ever imagine, and she doesn't need your approval. For a moment, Tyrock seemed taken aback by Elias's defiance. But he quickly recovered, sneering as he turned to leave. We'll see, human. When she fails, I'll ensure the galaxy knows it was your incompetence that doomed her. Pushing forward, the confrontation left Lyrian shaken, but it also reignited her determination. Over the following weeks, she threw herself into her therapy with renewed vigor, pushing past every limit. Elias was there every step of the way, his unwavering support giving her the strength to keep going. One day, as she practiced walking unassisted, Lyrian managed to take several steps without the braces. She stumbled but caught herself before falling, her breathing ragged but triumphant. I did it, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I actually did it. Elias smiled, his own eyes glistening. You did. A growing bond. As Lyrian's progress continued, so did her bond with Elias. Their late-night conversations grew deeper, their shared laughter more frequent. What had started as a tenuous partnership was blossoming into something neither of them had expected. You've changed me, Lyrian admitted one evening as they sat under the stars on the facility's observation deck. Not just my body, but my perspective. You've shown me that I'm more than my father's expectations. Elias reached out, taking her hand in his. You've changed me too, Lyrian. You've shown me what true strength looks like. For the first time, Lyrian allowed herself to believe in a future beyond her father's shadow, a future she could shape on her own terms, with Elias by her side. Chapter 3. Rising Above. The weeks following Baron Tyrok's visit were a whirlwind of determination, progress, and simmering tension. Lyrian Tyrok had pushed her limits in every therapy session, driven not only by her desire to reclaim her life, but also by the need to prove her father wrong. Dr. Elias Carter worked tirelessly alongside her, fine-tuning the equipment and techniques that had already delivered remarkable results. Together, they had created something extraordinary, a partnership built on trust, respect, and the shared goal of defying the odds. But as Lyrian's confidence grew, so too did the challenges. Tyrok's shadow loomed over every success, his veiled threats a constant reminder that their achievements could be snatched away in an instant. Sabotage in the shadows. It began subtly. Diagnostic equipment malfunctioned during critical therapy sessions, forcing Elias to halt progress and recalibrate systems. Supplies that were always in stock suddenly went missing. Even the neural graft stimulators, essential to Lyrian's recovery, began to show unexplained irregularities. Elias suspected sabotage almost immediately. The facility was a secure environment, with only authorized personnel granted access to its sensitive areas. Someone was intentionally disrupting their work. One evening, as Elias worked late in the lab, Lyrian entered, her face pale and her movements stiff. "Something's wrong," she said quietly. "The stimulators aren't responding the way they used to." Elias frowned, pulling up her latest data logs. His expression darkened as he studied the readings. "These settings were altered," he said, his voice tense. "Someone's tampered with them." Lyrian's jaw tightened. "My father." Elias nodded grimly. "He doesn't want you to succeed." "But why?" Lyrian asked, frustration lacing her voice. "Why would he go this far to sabotage me? Isn't he the one who gave me to you in the first place?" Elias met her gaze, his expression serious. "Because he's afraid. If you prove him wrong, if you show the galaxy what you're capable of, you'll shatter the image he's built of himself. He's spent his life controlling people. He can't control you anymore, and that terrifies him." Lyrian's hands clenched into fists. "Then we'll show him. We'll show everyone." A turning point. Determined to counter the sabotage, Elias and Lyrian worked together to secure the facility. They implemented new security protocols, restricted access to critical systems, and enlisted the help of trusted staff to monitor for suspicious activity. But they knew that defense alone wasn't enough. They had to go on the offensive. Elias contacted Senator Tarex, a Gralian official known for his progressive views and opposition to Tyrok's authoritarian tactics. The senator agreed to meet them in secret to discuss their progress and the possibility of publicly challenging Tyrok's narrative. The meeting took place aboard the Silver Horizon, Elias's personal ship, docked at a remote station on the fringes of Gralian space. Tarex, a wiry figure with piercing amber eyes, listened intently as Lyrian described her journey and the breakthroughs she and Elias had achieved. "This is unprecedented," Tarex said, his tone thoughtful. "If what you say is true, it could revolutionize medical science across the galaxy and dismantle the stigma surrounding disability in our culture." "That's the goal," Lyrian said firmly. "But we need your help to make it happen. My father will do everything in his power to bury this." Tarex nodded. "I'll convene a special council session. If you're willing to present your findings publicly, we can force Tyrok to answer for his actions." Lyrian exchanged a glance with Elias, who gave her an encouraging nod. "We'll do it," she said. The public challenge. The council chamber on Zyre Prime was a grand amphitheater, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of the twin suns. It was here that Lyrian and Elias would make their stand. The room was filled with Gralian nobility, scientists, and political leaders, all of whom had been summoned to witness the presentation. At the head of the chamber sat Baron Tyrok, his expression cold and unreadable. Elias began the presentation, outlining the advanced medical techniques and technology that had been used in Lyrian's rehabilitation. He described the neural grafts, the customized therapy protocols, and the cutting-edge equipment that had enabled her to regain control of her body. Then, it was Lyrian's turn. She stepped forward, her movements steady and confident, no longer relying on braces or stimulators. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber as she addressed the assembly. "For years, I was treated as a burden," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I was told I was broken, useless. But I stand before you today as proof that no one is beyond repair. With the right tools and support, we can overcome even the greatest challenges." She turned to her father, her gaze unwavering. "Baron Tyrock sought to use my condition as a tool for mockery and control. But his cruelty gave me the opportunity to find strength in myself and in the people who believed in me." The room erupted in applause, but Tyrock's expression darkened. "This is a farce," he said, rising from his seat. "You expect us to believe that a human creature of such limited intelligence achieved what we could not?" Elias stepped forward, his tone calm but firm. "It's not about intelligence or species. It's about compassion, determination, and a willingness to challenge outdated beliefs. Lyrian's success isn't just mine, it's hers." Vindication. The council voted overwhelmingly in favor of recognizing Lyrian's achievements and funding the expansion of the Universal Rehabilitation Center. Tyrock's attempts to discredit her were met with scorn. His influence diminished in the face of her triumph. As the session concluded, Lyrian approached Elias, a rare smile lighting her face. "We did it," she said. Elias shook his head. "You did it. I just helped you get there." They stood together on the balcony of the council chamber, watching as the twin suns dipped below the horizon. For the first time in years, Lyrian felt free to live, to dream, and to shape her own future. Chapter 4. A New Legacy. The twin suns of Zyre Prime cast long shadows over the sprawling council plaza as Lyrian Tyrock and Dr. Elias Carter stepped into a new chapter of their journey. The day's events had shaken the foundations of Grallian society. Baron Tyrock, stripped of his unchallenged influence, retreated from the council chamber in silent fury. Meanwhile, Lyrian's triumph had ignited a spark of change that could not be extinguished. But their work was far from over. A surge of support. The days following the council's decision were a whirlwind. News of Lyrian's recovery spread across the galaxy, inspiring individuals and communities who had long been marginalized or dismissed due to injury, disability, or societal expectations. Messages poured into the Universal Rehabilitation Center from beings of every species, patients seeking treatment, families offering gratitude, and supporters pledging resources to expand the center's reach. Lyrian embraced her newfound role with a determination that surprised even herself. No longer content to remain in the shadows, she worked alongside Elias to oversee the center's operations, speaking at galactic forums and advocating for the integration of advanced rehabilitation technologies across allied systems. One evening, as they reviewed plans for a new facility on the moon of Alderaan, Lyrian turned to Elias with a thoughtful expression. "Did you ever think we'd come this far?" Elias smiled, his gaze warm. "Honestly, I knew you would. I just wasn't sure how long it would take for everyone else to catch up." Lyrian smirked, her confidence now a constant presence. "You always know the right thing to say." Baron Tyrock's countermove. But not everyone welcomed the changes Lyrian and Elias represented. Back on Zyre Prime, Baron Tyrock plotted his next move. Humiliated by his daughter's success and the loss of his influence, he sought to undermine her legacy through political and covert means. Tyrock's agents spread false rumors, accusing Elias of using illegal human technology to manipulate Lyrian's recovery. He lobbied corrupt officials to delay funding for the new rehabilitation centers and secretly funneled resources into rogue factions opposed to interspecies cooperation. Elias, ever vigilant, noticed the uptick in resistance. "He's not going to let this go," he told Lyrian during a strategy meeting. "We need to stay ahead of him." Lyrian's jaw tightened. "He can try to tear us down, but he doesn't realize something important." "What's that?" Elias asked. "We're not alone anymore," Lyrian replied, her eyes glinting with determination. "This isn't just about us. It's about everyone who believes in what we're building." Allies unite. Recognizing the need for broader support, Lyrian and Elias began forming alliances with influential figures across the galaxy. They worked closely with Senator Tarex, whose advocacy for rehabilitation programs made him a valuable ally. They also secured partnerships with human organizations, including Earth's Galactic Medical Consortium, which provided advanced neural and genetic technologies to complement Grallian methods. A pivotal moment came during the Galactic Summit on Unity, held on the neutral world of Varanis. Lyrian delivered a powerful speech, recounting her journey from humiliation to empowerment. She called on leaders to prioritize compassion and cooperation over pride and division. "For too long," she said, her voice resonating through the vast auditorium, "we have allowed fear and prejudice to dictate our actions. But today, we have the power to rewrite our stories to prove that strength is not in domination but in unity." The audience erupted in applause, and Lyrian's words became a rallying cry for change. Even Elias, who had heard her speak countless times, found himself moved by her conviction. "You're a natural leader," he told her afterward. Lyrian gave him a rare, genuine smile. "I had a good teacher." The final confrontation. Tyrok's efforts to sabotage their work culminated in an audacious attack on the Alderaan facility during its grand opening. Saboteurs infiltrated the site, planting charges intended to destroy the facility before it could begin operations. But Lyrian and Elias, having anticipated Tyrok's desperation, had taken precautions. Security teams intercepted the saboteurs before they could complete their mission, disarming the charges and apprehending the culprits. Among them was one of Tyrok's most trusted advisors. When the evidence was presented to the council, Tyrok's involvement was undeniable. Facing public outrage and the collapse of his remaining influence, he was stripped of his title and exiled from Zyre Prime. As Tyrok was led away in disgrace, Lyrian watched with a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow. "I never wanted it to come to this," she said quietly. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "You gave him every chance to change. He made his choice." Lyrian nodded, her resolve firm. "And now, we move forward." A new legacy. With Tyrok's shadow finally lifted, Lyrian and Elias focused on expanding their vision. The Universal Rehabilitation Network grew rapidly, establishing facilities across the galaxy and revolutionizing medical science. Their work inspired countless others to challenge societal norms and fight for inclusion and equality. Lyrian became a symbol of resilience and leadership, her story taught in schools and celebrated in art and literature. Elias, ever humble, continued to work behind the scenes, developing new technologies and mentoring the next generation of healers. One evening, as they stood on the observation deck of the Alderaan facility, Lyrian turned to Elias with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever think about what's next?" Elias smiled, his gaze on the stars. "All the time. But for now, I'm just glad we're here." Lyrian nodded, her heart full. "Me too." Together, they watched as the galaxy stretched out before them, a vast, endless expanse of possibility.